Hey, what's up, guys? So, I wanted to make a real quick video. Well, I'm gonna try to make it quick. Explaining ambient occlusion in Eevee in Blender. I'm using Blender 2.83. That should still apply in all the 2.8 series, 2.8x. Nothing should be different. At least it shouldn't be. I don't think. Anyway, so this specifically is being made for a guy named Markham 3D on YouTube, and I thought if I'm gonna make this video for him, I might as well kind of just make it for everybody as well, because there's probably other people that don't know this either, and he may actually already know this, but it's a ambient occlusion. I was watching his live stream. He makes short films on YouTube using Blender, and so I thought, and I've been following him for a while. Awesome content. Please check it out. I'll give his link in the description below. Markham 3D is out of Australia. He's been doing some really awesome stuff, teaching all kinds of things. We're working on motion capture, animation right now. Anyway, a while ago I saw him struggling trying to get that ambient occlusion to work in Eevee, and he wasn't sure exactly. He was trying to use the ambient occlusion node. So I found a better way to do it, or at least this is how I do it. This is how I learned how to do it from other people. So you can actually enable ambient occlusion directly in Eevee right here. So actually I have two screens showing. That's why in the bottom right it's another screen up here on the right. So I actually run 3 monitors. So, but down here and under the render engine, under sampling, actually I think the first thing under that is ambient occlusion, but this is for like object to object basically. So if you turn off this, it mostly affects like ambient occlusion from one object to another. So if we zoom in on this chair, which I'm going to use kind of to demonstrate everything here, so you have shadows being cast, but you're not having ambient occlusion. So if we turn this on, it's hard to see here. Let me turn off the scene lights so you can kind of see what's going on. With this off, so there's no ambient occlusion going on. With it on, now we have some ambient occlusion being refracted, but it's not super accurate from object to object. That's just the nature of Eevee. But it gives you a pretty good like thing here. Obviously this is much better with scene lights on to get the effect that you want. So this if you turn this up, it's going to affect the distance, and here's how much. So if we crank these up here, you can't really see it super well on this because of the way the scene is lit. But basically it affects object to object. And you can mess around with these things. They're just more settings for the ambient occlusion, which you already knew about, but I just want to point that out real quick. That is mostly for object to object is what that is for. And the way my scene is lit, it's just lit in a way that is not gonna show it that well. But what is important is getting some of the details. So he was struggling with getting the ambient occlusion on particular objects themselves. So like when you have a texture and you're trying to get that ambient occlusion for that said texture, you know, to get that kind of the darker shadows kind of in the crevices and stuff where like angles meet, the better way to do that is with a ambient occlusion map. I think in cycles you can do it a little bit differently with the ambient occlusion node, but I haven't messed with that too much. So, but this is how you do it. Up here you see, and I'll switch screens. So this is the texture for this chair here. We'll work with the base of it first. So we have our diffuse texture here, running into the color. Then we have a roughness map into the roughness. I have the normal map running into a normal map, and then I'm combining that for a bump, just to add a little extra to it. And I usually just do this very subtly. From there, to create the ambient occlusion, we need to create an ambient occlusion map. Now some textures come with them. Like so if you have, here is, I'll pull this down. Here is actually, we'll make this a little bit, actually I'll pull it over here so you can see it better. Let's go large icons. So you have like your normal maps. I have it, this texture, I have it in 1 and 2K variant. I think I have it higher now on a different drive, but I also made myself an ambient occlusion map. It didn't come with one, and I'm going to show you how to do that real quick with some free software. Super useful for creating maps. So say you download a texture online, you only have the diffuse, the color texture itself. This is how you can create your normal maps, your displacement maps, all that fun stuff. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. We'll pull this off to our screen. Then we're going to switch back to this one, and we're going to bring up this program called Materialize. See up here on the top left. It is a free piece of software. I will try to put the link for that as well in the description. It is 100% free. Let's go ahead and clear this right now. Clear all textures, yes. So this is what you get when you first start. And the navigate, like, so this is kind of like the sample thing. This is where you can kind of preview all your textures together. I'm not going to go super detailed in this, but so first we need to load in the diffuse map, the color map. So we push this is like the save the texture thing. I'm not sure what P is or C. Maybe that's copy. Oh, copy paste. That's what it is. Open and then save. So those are the ones I use the most. So what I do is I open up diffuse. We're gonna get this, and what I want to do is just grab my color. So this 2K color PNG file. Push select, and it's going to load that texture in here. Pretty simple. Now from here you can create from this one texture you can create a height map, a metallic map, and a smooth map. Now to get your like a normal map and an edge map and a ambient occlusion map, you need to create other maps first. So I usually make my height map next, and then from there I can build out everything else I need. So even if if I already have like a roughness map, basically kind of the same thing as a height map or displacement map, I guess. Sorry, displacement map. And your roughness would be your smoothness map. So I create the height map first. So I can just hit create. Usually like your defaults will work pretty well, but you can also tweak this. Oh, also you have the reveal slider here. So on this is like what the texture, if you have it all the way to the left, this is what it's going to create, and this is what your thing. So you can kind of put it wherever you want. I kind of like it right about there, and you can kind of pick and tweak with these sliders to get the amount of height you want, and you have kind of presets. A lot of times the defaults, depending on what your texture you're working with, a lot of times the defaults are good enough just as is. But if you want to get more detail out of it, so like if you do a detailed one, it's going to make a little more more stronger effect. So you may end up having to dial it back a little bit, depending on how you like to work and what the texture is. Just keep that in mind. So if you have it set to stronger, you may end up dialing back the effect with in your nodes. So so we'll just go with the default for now. And then this is like where you can kind of get you can dial in the contrast and stuff. Add grain and final contrast, basically a bunch of adjustments. You guys can play with that stuff and go from there. Then you want to hit set height map, and then from there now we can create everything but an edge map. And I can't remember what creates the edge map, but it's one of these other ones. So now that we have height information, we can create what we need to make. We just came here to basically make an AO map. So we'll hit create, and then boom, there you go. There is the AO. From there we can kind of like play with this if we want to. But let's see, okay. Robust depth today. Oh, okay. First off, let's actually, before we create that, Let's create a normal map because I think it needs the normal map to make that better, more precise. Create the normal map first, and we'll just say says normal. Now we'll create this, and then from here we'll just use this. We'll set AO. So now that we have that done, we can go hit the S, save it. What I like to do is just, since I already have it here, I'm just gonna save over the top of it. But I basically usually just select whether the color is. Basically, I just rename it to match whatever the scheme of how things are named. Anyway, and select, save over it. Cool. We have that. Now let's go back into Blender. Now we're going to affect this on what slot we have selected. Let's go up to there. And from here, what I want to do is basically add another texture, or you can duplicate it. Either way, image texture, hit that. Then we're going to open up the texture. Another way I can do that is you can, and I don't know if you'll know this, you can also just drag the if you have it on another window, you can just drag it in, make an image texture. So then we want to obviously follow the vector here, and then we want to add in a color mix RGB. We're going to hook that up. So the top one goes into the mix, and then into the color. Then the second color is going to go into the bottom, and we're going to change this to multiply. All right, now that we have that, now this would kind of dial up and down how much ambient occlusion we're getting. And what I'll do is I will switch screens so you can see it bigger. So we turn this up, we get more or less ambient occlusion on the chair. And that's just the texture level. Remember that. It's not affecting like ambient occlusion from things that aren't attached to that object or that texture. So just keep that in mind. Your ambient occlusion over here is what that's for. I'm not too worried about the texture on this. The chair is obviously somebody's gonna be sitting in this chair when I get to it, so it's not a huge deal. But yeah, that's how you create an ambient occlusion on an object. Hopefully that answers your questions. And obviously, if you have multiple things you want to and ambient occlusion also is kind of related to your normal map. So basically the way to think about your normal map is kind of like a light roll off, sort of, to the almost like the geometry of the texture. So they, oftentimes you'll want to kind of play with your normal amount. And if say you have some bump here, you might want to you can kind of dial those together so you get what your effect you're looking for. That might be a little too grainy, but let's go 0.08 maybe. Yeah, so between those things, you're going to be fiddling with your ambient occlusion in here, your normal, your bump. All those things will play into kind of like how that ambient occlusion is perceived at the textural level. Hopefully that helps. There's not like one way to do this. Keep that in mind. This is kind of the artistic side of it. And you can add strength to some of these things by like a color map or a color ramp. Sorry, I'll show you that just real quick. Most people, I'm sure Markham already knows this, but maybe somebody else doesn't. So you go up to converter. Oops, not color. I want color ramp. Converter, color ramp. And then with this, you can kind of like really, you can affect kind of like the strength of it and the roll off of it, and you can really get, do weird things with it. Obviously this is completely not what you want, but you can really kind of like say you want to really tighten in on some of those crevices, like you want to give that impression for some reason. You can kind of really just dig in on those and balance it out to your, way you like it. Obviously, if this was something that I needed to be able to see really well, and a character is going to be basically sitting on this, so it won't even be seen mostly. But if I really needed to, you'd want to make this the outside rim another slot and kind of change your vectoring, just FYI. Though it's not going to be seen, so it's not a huge deal in this particular case. We'll bring that back a little bit. So hopefully that helps give you an idea of what's possible using just textures to create more illusion of depth. Remember, ambient occlusion, if you're unaware, is basically the darkness of two objects close together. So say you have a corner of a wall, even if there's light more or less hitting that corner pretty semi directly, you're still going to have like a darker light gets trapped in there, and it creates like almost like a little shadow basically where those points meet. And obviously the lighting conditions and angles and stuff all change how that is. If you want to really understand that, I'm not going to go into all that, but like do some Google searches. You can really dive deep into that if you want to get super nerdy about it. But that's just the basic understanding of how it works. That's why you have even you'll have, like in a real world environment, you'd still have a tiny little shadow here, even if a light is basically coming straight onto it for the most part, depending on how strong it is. You're still going to have something where that corners meet, or corners of walls or whatever. Anyway, so hopefully that helps. Do me a favor, go check out, if you're watching this, go check out Markham 3D's channel. It's Markham 3D, like I said, on YouTube. I'll link the description in the bottom. He's making some cool short films, big inspiration to myself. I've been working on this short film for about 7 weeks now, and I've watched quite a few of his videos for quite a few months, and he does really cool stuff. So check him out. He has a lot of good little tutorials that are quick, to the point, a lot less rambling like me. So if you want quicker to the point, less rambling, check out his tutorials. He does an excellent job. Hopefully this helps, and I appreciate all the help that you've given me, Markham, through the last few months of checking out your videos. So it's awesome to see that people that different experience levels can help each other. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, I guess give it a thumbs down. But hopefully you subscribed and you come back for more. I do live streams on a regular basis, most of the time, almost nightly, making this short film. I plan on live streaming tonight, in fact. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great night. I'll talk to you guys later.